Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for coming to this very important pre-submission seminar from Ms. Eileen Babonnet. Hello, everyone. I'm Sonia Palmieri. I'm the head of the Department of Pacific Affairs. I'd like to extend a welcome to you on Ngunnawal country and pay respects to elders past and present as the custodians of the lands on which we meet. I'm so delighted to welcome you all to this pre-submission seminar. Eileen, hello, welcome, come. Eileen has an illustrious career, I think, in education in PNG. She was formerly a high school teacher, and then she worked at UPNG, and then she came to us in the pre-COVID years and has been enjoying her time with us at the Department of Pacific Affairs. It's just been pure enjoyment, hasn't it, Eileen? Yes, I see an eye roll. Eileen is a master gardener. She is also a fan of Fijian and African music, which I think we share, and also a love of various things on Netflix. But she's not here to talk about any of that. What she is here to talk about is all of the research that she's been doing that has culminated in this amazing new title, which I really love, that Strength Matters. So Eileen is going to talk to us about what she has found in terms of voter behaviours and attitudes toward women candidates in Papua New Guinea. Over to you, Eileen.
Thank you, Sonia. And thank you everyone for coming. Lindsay, can you help me? How am I going to?
Maybe sometimes it's just easy to go.
That's what I do. Oh, nothing's happening.
Okay. Oh, there you go. So if you go, you go up.
All right. This is my supervisory panel. I first had Dr. Tiago Obermes, Dr. Terry Zuberlich, and Professor Nicole Haley on my panel. And then I now have sitting on my panel Professor Anthony Regan, Dr. Colin Wiltshire, and Associate Professor Sonia Palmieri. So I feel so much like a button with legs in a relay. Okay. I'm not moving. Okay, there. All right. I have 7 chapters in my thesis. Introduction, the literature review, chapter 2. Chapter 3, I have research design. Chapter 4, defining strong women candidates. Chapter 5, strong women as those elected. Chapter 6, strong women candidates as those valued by voters. And chapter 7, discussion and conclusion. So my presentation today is going to follow the structure of my thesis. So my research question: does Papua New Guinea have a big woman consent? I examined this notion through voter behaviors and attitudes towards women candidates. 10 women altogether were made legislators in PNG by voters. 5 came from the southern region, 2 came from both Momase and the New Guinea Islands region, and 1 from the Highlands region. These women were not big women, but they were strong women candidates. So going forward, I will not be using big, but strong, because strength matters for women wanting to play big man politics in Papua New Guinea. Because of the complications in the fragmented nature of the southern region, I look at Rigo open electorate as a case study for possible explanations. Why do we have 5 women in PNG who became members of parliament? So I am from Papua New Guinea, that we have established already. There are 4 regions in Papua New Guinea. There's the Islands region, the New Guinea Islands, the Momase region, the landlocked Highlands region, and the southern region. I am from the southern region. Southern region also used to be known as Papua. I am from Central Province, that part over there. So I'm from Central Province. All right. Central Province is made up of 5 open districts. There is Goilala, Kairuku, Hirikoyari, Rigo, and Abau open electorate or district. I am from Rigo. I am from Rigo district. Rigo district has 4 local level government councils. There is the Rigo Coast, there is Rigo Central, and there is Rigo Inland. On the eve of the 22nd, on the eve of 2022 national general elections, Rigo North got chopped, Rigo Inland got chopped into 2 local level governments. So there is Rigo North and there is Rigo East. I am from Rigo Central, and this is my village over here. And the name of my village is Kwalimurubu. That's my village. In 1964, I wasn't born then. This is my village today. Yes, we have a drain by the side of a sealed road, and we have electricity that decides if it wants to go off for a week, it goes off for a week. And it's for watching rugby. We have no running water. So when the long dry seasons come, then women look for water. This over here is the place where men sat and talked about the affairs of the village. We used to call it a church, Rubu. All right, this is my father's house. All right, why do I have these people on here? I met this woman, her name is Gareni. I met her on Facebook in 2019. On the top of the caption of her photo read, a woman, a Kwalimurubu widow in mourning. Sorry, I didn't acknowledge the source. I forgot to do that. And then on this side, that's my father, that's my mother, and that's the Queen of England and her husband, the Duke. The 4 most important facts missing about that woman, she was the daughter of a chief. When this church over here, the current modern day church was, when the London Missionary Society was looking for a piece of land to carry out the activities of the church, what happened was this woman here signed on behalf of her father, and this, my father's grandfather, so the both of them signed this piece of land to the crown so that the LMS could use that. My father, I come from a line of chiefs. My great-grandmother was a chief who married my great-grandfather who was a chief. So our lands are boundaries, and so those 2 people signed. She signed on behalf of her father. Fathers with land are known to have gifted land to their daughters. I do not claim the status of an anthropologist because I do not write about the people of Rigo. Instead, I write with them about our truths because their stories are my stories and their values are my values. This is not a quest to romanticize a group of people, but it is a mission to unmask the feminist element in patrilineal Papua through Rigo electorate. The people spoke and their values concerning women were translated onto ballots on election day. So I hope our stories will offer some explanation on Papuan citizens' behaviors and attitudes towards women candidates in the southern region of Papua New Guinea. Okay, so this land, the reason why I showed you this land, the 4 facts I talked about, Lareni, this piece of land was given to her by her father. This land over here was given to her by her father. And then what she did was she parceled this land into blocks and she distributed this land to among the clansmen of her husband. This over here, okay, so this is our land. That's my brother's house over there. This land over here also belongs to us. And in that piece of land over there was the land that my great-grandmother brought to our family. It was gifted to her by her father. All right, so literature review. When we look at the world today, where does the Pacific, in 1995, this was the Pacific. So if we have a look at the bar graph representing Pacific with relation to the rest of the world, we will see that we were not doing very well. There were more men in parliament than women. Then in 2025, again, we see over here an improvement. The bar has gone a little bit low, but we're not still doing well in comparison to the other countries in the rest of the world. Then when we look at Pacific Island Forum countries, Papua New Guinea having the largest parliament, the largest parliament with 118 seats, total number of MPs in parliament, it hasn't done very well. So there's 0 changes in the number of women we've had coming in. So because in 2015 we had 3, then we had nothing in 2020, then in 2024 we have had we now have currently 3. So all in all, no change. We've remained the same. All right, so electing women in Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea, like the rest of the region, is enabling laws that promote women's political participation in local, subnational, or national elections. And despite of this enabling legislation, since 1972, only 10 women have been elected to parliament by voters. My review going forward deals with 2 themes: women candidates and the barriers that prevent them from getting into parliament. So I'm going to just rush through this because these are common knowledge and you all know that already. So one of the barriers that is stopping women from going into parliament in Papua New Guinea are institutional barriers. So we're looking at the supply side. Franco talks about that. The supply side, he is talking about the number of women candidates. The supply is very small. You don't have a lot of women contesting for elections. Then when he talks about the design of electoral institutions, we're talking about the informal and the formal rules that govern those. So when we're looking at the formal rules, maybe we're looking at things like electoral roles are problematic. Sometimes it takes the 11th hour for people to be rushing around to start collecting names. And then election-related violence, this is not formal. These are informal rules coming into influence and disturb, if you want, the electoral institutions running operations. All right, so for women wanting to contest national general elections in Papua New Guinea, the task is mammoth because of the lack of financial means to aid the electoral campaign. So when we're looking at financial means, again, that is, again, an informal rule that's coming into the formal setting that's already there. All right, then we're looking at another barrier, which is the social barriers that are there. A lot of people vote along kin and clan, and so, or a cousin, brother's friend. And so when we have people voting that way, then okay, that poses a problem for other candidates, but it also poses a greater problem for women. It stops them from getting into parliament because that is how people are voting. Big men and money politics. Also, there are studies, there are scholars who have talked about big men and money politics. Big men is the anglicization of a descriptive phrase, big pelaman, meaning big men. And so referring to male leaders whose political influence is achieved by means of public oratory, informal persuasion, and a skillful conduct of both private and public wealth exchanges. We all know that very well, big men and money politics. And then, of course, all the others. And then there's masculinity and politics, masculine traits coming into play over there. So there is this person here saying that masculinity in Papua New Guinea, stating that some of the better known roles can be glossed over as political leader. They're the only ones who can be, who make good political leaders. The peacemakers, feast givers, warriors, ritual experts, master artisans, traders, or influential men, forming the opinion that all these ideal roles have one common denominator: a personal forcefulness defined as the ability to interject oneself into events and affect their outcomes in a certain way. When we have a look at this, I will not be making mention of this, but women pre-colonial times, women in Rigo, there were women who actually took part in tribal wars as well, especially those women who didn't, were barren women, actually went to war with their husbands. And so when we're talking about warriors in one part of the country, there was women who were going to fight. When we talk about trading, men were trading, yes, they were traveling distances, but the way and the products that they were taking to markets were those things made by women. So women made the clay pots and the men took them to go and trade. So women are there, but they are not there because they're not seen. All right. Then Haley and Zubrinish note the pervasiveness of masculine political cultures and a view that politics is men's work. And then, of course, we have Baker and Sepoy. Sepoy describes big man politics in PNG as a masculine construct. The view that strength methods defines the political behaviors of voters in Papua New Guinea. What is missing from all that literature is that previous research has focused attention on women who contested national general elections and the systemic barriers that prevent them from being elected, rather than the consideration of voters in deciding whether or not to give a vote to them. And so therefore, missing an opportunity to consider why even small numbers of voters choose to support some women candidates and the regional and cultural factors that enable those women to make these decisions. And according to literature, the antecedent to the lack of presence of women in parliament in PNG is the cultural practices of voters and the patriarchal systems that they observe. I believe that that is the starting point to understand the political behaviors of voters. And understanding of their cultural practices is imperative because in the final analysis, voters decide, coalition or not, which candidate will get a vote and which one will not. So the context of colonization, where does colonization play in all of this? Papua New Guinea is a colonial construct. After the Portuguese, that was West Papua, the Germans in New Guinea and the British in Papua, the Australians came. Okay, in this now, you can forget West Papua. According to these three, Gardner, Ritchie, and Underhill, he says that Papua in 1906 and New Guinea in 1921 were territories of the Australian Federation, sharing the same constitutional status with the Northern Territory and the other Australian territories until 1975. Papua from 1948 to 1975 held Australian citizenship. This is a moot point. Debatable, with some gaps when the administration of the territories was split into internal and external departments. All the territories were governed under the same minister and staffed by the same federal public servants. So that's 1921 to 1975, including the crucial years of 1951 and 1968. Policies that applied to one was either applied to all or adjusted according to perceived distinctions. So with contact came a new order. But there existed before this new order, another order, the old order, and which is the cultures of the 800 plus languages, their unwritten constitutions, a way of life with values and principles, which I would like to think were their laws that governed, informed, and influenced their social, political, and economic lives and actions. So when incorporating culture, Finlay Sen notes that when we study studying culture enables us to address important questions about the relationships between politics, culture, and individual experience, inseparable from the clash of political identity and interest groups. Our challenge, therefore, is not that of establishing how culture informs politics or how politics informs culture, but that of making sense of the conditions under which and the ways in which culture becomes a vitally important location of individual and collective political action, struggle, and contest. So while we're looking at the what's and the how's, the most important question we should be asking is, why is it happening this way? In order to understand, culture, he says, is ordinary, made by ordinary people, and as they react to and address extraordinary experiences. All right, I'm moving on. In order to understand a political situation fully, one has to study not only the stuff of traditional political studies, okay, which are the processes of government, the personalities in power, the segments of the electorate, and the constants of traditional political economy, which are the economic development, trade union organizations, and the class dominations, but also we're looking at the cultural artifacts and practices of many, all of which have a role in the production and maintenance of forms of identity and experience in attempts to challenge it. One of my focus group discussions had this to say: in our custom, a woman does not lead. Custom is there, it is living, and that is all. It is living. Only men must lead, not women. Only men is chief, not women. From there until it came to now, women did not lead because our old people went to war. If we compare a man's strength to a woman's strength, they are not the same. We have many custom things with men. That is why only men led. If I can say this, I would like to say that that is very realist, a realist viewpoint of things, because there are enemies out there, only men should. So the safety of the village is paramount. In order to safeguard the village, men must lead and not women, because she's not strong enough to do that. All right, only men went to war, or we could give away things like land to a woman, but a woman never led. That has not changed. So when it comes to women and the political representation at the national level, in as much as holding accountable the cultural practices of voters as the principal perpetrator in women's political advancement at the national level, a substantial body of evidence convincingly demonstrates that certain legacies of colonialism must be analyzed, because through some of its exclusion practices, it institutionalized and gendered the new order. I'll just give you one example and then move on. Thinking that by establishing women groups and women fellowship groups, this would encourage women participation. So this was rolled out. You had women attending this, becoming a part of these groups. But what happened was that these groups only ended up reinforcing the gendered spaces that already existed. And so they ended up only isolating women from men, and also those women who were educated women became separated from the women from the village. So these systems here created two classes of women: those who lived in villages and those who lived in towns. So when these educated women go to campaign in the villages, the village women are very suspicious of, okay, you're not living here, and how come suddenly you want to come and represent us? All right. So we're focusing on voters. Studies on women's political representation show that there are many barriers. We've already established that facing women's political aspirations to enter national politics in Papua New Guinea, culture being the principal cause. Arguments stating that a gendered culture, among other barriers, contributes to women's lack of agency, propagates the notion that a lack of voice is equated to a lack of political representation in the public domain. Therefore, once again, going further to equate it, women's subjugation is, I think, troublesome, because I believe troublesome because it regards the existence of practices in traditional societies in Papua New Guinea that recognize and accord women a place in spaces of influence to co-author change and broker security. There is evidence showing that voters do vote for women, enabling them to perform better than many contesting men candidates, and that their ballots are placing these women in the top 5 ranks, with the Southern region women candidates doing better at the polls than the other women candidates. Rigo Open Electorate presents the opportunity to providing possible explanations. So my research design, I carried out my fieldwork in 2019. I went to Rigo electorate. I concentrated on the 2017 national general elections, because what happened was, for the Rigo open seat, 8 women contested and 2 were in the top 10 ranks. In central regional, 3 women contested and 1 of them was in the top 5 ranks. And then in the southern region as a whole, we have produced 5 women members of parliament. The numbers are too small to be significant, but if certain women are successful in the election campaigns, does it mean PNG has a strong woman concept? Because again, of its fragmented nature in culture, language, and topography, I look at the voters of Rigo electorate as a case study to seek explanations. So these over here are villages that I visited. I went to about 25 villages. So what did I do? I had 15 women groups, 15 men groups, and 10 mixed groups. The mixed group was my control group. The control group tried to see how women acted when they were with men. Did women speak or did they not speak? So that was the 10 mixed groups was my control group. I had 40 focus groups in total, and the number of participants in the groups ranged between 8 and 28. And all the participants were of voting age. So from January to February 2019, I went to the district office and to seek permission to go out into the district, but the administrator that I had to see was always missing in action. Every time I'd go, he was not there. So then someone met me and told me, another officer told me, you can just go ahead and start dealing with the councillors. You can go and see the councillors and deal with them directly. So that's where I went. I collected 66 B forms. And what I did was I wanted to see where so I looked at the top 10 best performing candidates. And then I went to the 66 B forms and I went through all of the votes that they collected and tried to figure out where the vote bases were. And I found out that those in the top 10 ranks came from Rigo Central, and most of the vote bases were in, not Rigo Central, sorry, Rigo Coast, but the vote bases were in Rigo Coast where they came from. So I decided, okay, I'm going to leave that out and I'm going to spread my participants from across the district. So I went to all those villages. My fieldwork expenses included security, breakfast, counselors, participants. I gave them things. So at one point in time, I was taking money and giving them, not bribing them, but saying thank you, because they could have gone to the gardens and instead they came to listen to me carrying on. So I thought I should thank them in that way. So that's what I did. But when I saw that more and more people were coming, then money was running out. So I decided, let me just buy food and biscuits and things and take them so they can drink tea and then we can go. All right, so that's what happened. Okay, I include my experience as a female researcher to give insights into the complexities facing women candidates during elections. If a woman is running for an electorate, then she has a smaller area to cover. But if she is contesting a provincial seat, then she has a huge place to canvass votes in. So, okay, what did I do? Thank you. All right, so that's what I'm talking about. So when the two women contested for Rigo Open, that's the only area that they contested. Rufina Peter contested this big area over here, and she had to make sure that she was going to all of these places. Okay, just like I have already covered that, thank you. So I'm going to move on. A research approach. So I use both region and culture as an analytical tool and method of interpretation because of the complexities of relationships between men and women in PNG, and women in PNG is in part dependent on regions. So the World Bank says that it is often assumed that women have always had a lower status to men in Papua New Guinea societies. This is not the case, as history of different provinces within Papua New Guinea reveals. The matrilineal nature of provinces such as Milne Bay has contributed to a very different social and cultural environment for women than other more traditionally patriarchal regions such as the Highlands. And Sepoy suggests that generalizations misunderstand the role of patrilineal and matrilineal systems in political socialization. So regions, we've got 4 regions of Papua New Guinea. In the southern region, made up of Western Gulf, Central, Milne Bay, National Capital District, and Oro Province, these provinces are mostly patrilineal, except for Milne Bay. In New Guinea Islands region, there's the autonomous region of Bougainville, East New Britain, West New Britain, Manus, and New Ireland. The region is predominantly matrilineal, except for Manus province. All right, and so this gives us some of the examples. In Bougainville, a woman's decisions are conveyed through a brother or an uncle who speaks on her behalf. And again, these are common knowledge. New Ireland too, the power to lead is dual. So a woman gets appointed, but she also, her relationship to the houseboy also gives her the powers to sit with men to make decisions and speak politics. East New Britain is also the same. The woman has a higher place in society. In the Highlands region is a little bit different because the systems are completely different. They're predominantly patrilineal. Those who dominated exchange networks became leaders of groups, coalitions, factions, and anthropologists have identified these individuals as big men who had skills in surplus production, manipulation of wealth, and preeminent in ceremonial exchange, oratory abilities, and forceful personalities. And the men of the upper class were described as chiefs who passed on the power to their eldest son and comprised about 6% of the total male population. Momase region is also the same. They are also patrilineal. And so this is shown in the house tambaran that they have. Men go in there, boys are initiated, and women do not go into those houses. And in Medang, men were responsible for interactions with gods, spirits, and totems. Women didn't do that. All right, so I used a mixed research methodology. Qualitative, I used qualitative research methodologies, looking at voter behaviors and attitudes towards women candidates. And I look at quantitative research methodologies, and I use election data. So this is to answer the question, does Papua New Guinea have a big woman concept? Because the nuanced message is this: women are not going into parliament because culture has so much play in that. And so when I use qualitative research methodologies, I want to make sure that what seems to be abstract and what seems to be subjective is validated by the data in numbers to say, yes, something is happening here, and these are the numbers that support what people are saying. Okay, so this is what a 66B form looks like. And this is what I have been dealing with since 2019. So when I look at it, I get sick in my stomach. Yeah. And it's not like only one place that I have looked at. I have looked at a certain number of places because of the 10 women that have contested and won elections. These are my focus group discussions. This is the reason why I have shown you this, especially in this village over here, the husbands and wives and the older people all sat together, and the boys sat away from the main group. The girls over here sat outside the group, and those women who didn't come with their husbands also sat outside the group. Over here, the men sat, and I'm sitting on the chair. This woman over here, I told her, come and sit next to me. And she said, no, I will sit behind you. So they accepted me to sit among the men because I had something to say. And this old Mary over here, she came with her husband, but she didn't sit in the circle. She sat outside the circle. Okay, what is not showing over here were the women who came with their children. They stayed outside the circle. What is also not showing over here was a group of young boys who came, but who didn't sit there. So that's only the men. In this marketplace, then what happened was everyone stood and anyhow and everywhere. Over here was a very informal gathering. I sat on the ground and everyone just sat around and wanted to listen to what I was saying. I was entertaining them. And then this woman here, she spent the whole 1 hour scolding me and asking me why I was collecting their names. And everybody tried to tell her, no, she's here doing work. She said, if I asked you to pay for my children's school fees, would you pay for them? And I said, I do not know. But she was not happy with me. So using all of that, I analyzed voter behaviors and attitudes towards women candidates by looking at the strength of a woman. And that's from 1972 to 2022, total number of women candidates, number of women elected, and the number of women known to place above average. Then I also look at strong women candidates in PNG from 1972 to 2022. The elections they contested, whether or not they were in the top 5 ranks, and their final vote shares. So it looks something like this. In 1972, I'll just give one example. In Southern region, 100 candidates contested. 3 of those were women. And out of those 3 women, 1 of them became a member of parliament and 2 of them were above average. Yes. And then strong women candidates in Papua New Guinea since 1972. Okay, so there's Josephine Abaja who contested in 1972. She was number 1 and her final vote share was 49%. She became the member of parliament. So I look at all the women, strong women candidates in this way. So their strength and how strong they were. Okay, so what were the enablers for all of these women? They were affiliated to parties. In 2017, out of the 9 women who were placed in the top 5 positions, 8 of them were affiliated to a political party. In 2022, 14 of them were in the top 5 positions and 12 of them were affiliated to a political party. Vote collaboration in 2017 and 2022. Kesi Sawang sits in the parliament as we speak. Kesi Sawang said in 2017, she collaborated with the male candidates. So she said, can you speak for me to your voters about me? So they'll give the number 1 to you, and if they can give their 1 and 2 and 3 to me. She said that almost made her win. So when in 2022, when she asked them, they said no, because she did very well. So they were afraid that she might win, but she did win, because she did a lot of groundwork. Rufina Peter in 2022, when there were 3 women contesting, the other one was Patricia Kasman. When Patricia Kasman got eliminated, all his 2nd and 3rd preferences were given to Rufina Peter. So between Rufina Peter and the incumbent Robert Agarobe, most of her votes went to Rufina Peter and they didn't go to Robert Agarobe. Vicky Mosingara is a very, very interesting woman, because what happened was somebody from her village was contesting. Someone from her village was contesting too, and this male who was contesting was going to be endorsed by the Pangu party. At the 11th hour, this woman came in with her new political party and told this Wanton, we will support you. And then in the 11th hour, she got up and she told this young man, sorry, but I'm going to contest, so can you stand away? So he stood away and she contested. And so I do not know what happened there. Something happened. She was the challenge to another candidate. Vavine Kilanares and Yamoga Pilauna, these are women who contested the Rigo Open Electorate in 2017. They did very well. They did very well. In 2017, they were in the top 10 ranks. But in 2022, they didn't contest. And the question is, did they not contest because Visigara Mosin was contesting? She was a patron. She is a patron of the Netball Association in Rigo. Yamo Gapilauna is a sportswoman, and these 2 women are also great followers of netball in Rigo. So did they collaborate? The barriers, we can see the barriers over here, high turnovers, especially men, political parties and independent candidates. In 2022, there were 52 political parties contesting. Some of those political parties, they're one member party. And still, okay, in 2022, 3,620 people contested. And of that, 2,254 of those people contested as independents. The question you ask is, what is the role of them? What role do they play in there? So then comes to vote splitting. In Manus Open in 1982, Elizabeth Burua was pitched against Naharuni, but Elizabeth Burua was not a strong candidate, woman candidate. Naharuni won. NCD Regional in 1982, Fidebale, I am believing, was pitched against Josephine Abijah because in that year, Philip Boraga won. And what's her name? Josephine Abijah was shot by 2,000 votes, and those 2,000 votes were sitting with Fidebale. Rigo Open, Vicky Garamosin versus Turai, the same thing. Vicky Garamosin, who was she or what was she? Turai, the contest has always been between Turai Elemi and what's his name? Anopala. Then we also see that more than one woman are challenging a strong woman candidate. That also is a barrier. We have voting irregularities, okay? Which means that some electorates have no names of certain people. And so these people spend the whole time looking for their names until the elections are over, okay? There's enrollment fraud and multiple voting and election violence. Morobe Provincial. In Morobe Provincial electorate, one woman, what's her name? Jennifer Bine did very, very well. But for the results of the Morobe Provincial, there is no results for Markham Valley. So there are no results for that, but still somebody got declared. And the number of electorates per region also has a, okay. So what are the key findings? There are more barriers than enablers to women's elections, and most of them are institutional, the formal and informal rules of the electoral process. We know that money is the one that plays so much game. So come election, money becomes like a river and it's flowing here and there. We do not know when cases are taken to court, then you have to provide evidence. Many times people do not have evidence to say, I saw money exchanging here and there, but all of that could be hidden in the number of independent candidates that are contesting. All right, so these are our strong women candidates as those elected. 10 of them. Thank you. All right. Then we are seeing over here Josephine Abijah, Southern Region, Walieta Klaus. Okay. So that's elections over average out of the 6, 5, 1. She contested once. She was a strong woman candidate, all of this. Okay. So that's the same right throughout. That's the New Guinea Islands region. That's the Highlands region. There's only one strong, very strong woman candidate, and Julie Soso. She contested 5, 6, and 1. She was above average. And that's the Manus region. Momase, Lujaya Tony, and Kesisawang. Lujaya contested 3 times, only once. Kesisawang twice, won once, and twice above average. Okay. Key findings: strength is evident. Strength is evident in candidates' visibility to the electorate and connections to visible men, especially men, and their performance above average. All right, strong women candidates as those valued by voters. We're almost getting there. So we're looking at Rigo electorate. Okay, so these are some of the, what do you call it? Some of the responses of participants. They said men was the decision maker. Long ago, it was men who sat there and women who gave us the food. And then another one says, in our custom, men sits and women sits here. Women is for the kitchen. Then another one says, our law, taboo women, where men sat and woman didn't sit. Every time the woman was menstruating. And so seeing her, that already is magic. They also said that a woman is a woman. she stays in the kitchen. So everyone continued to say that. Okay, so those are the rules that are upholding this structure over here. It's hierarchical. Men sit on top, women are at the bottom. The younger unmarried men are over there. Now, I do not know where the boys are. The boys are missing in this. And then eventually they end up fitting themselves in there. But I want to make something clear. That top will only be as strong as the bottom over here. If the bottom, where the women are, is strong, then the top is strong because that bottom group of women holds up the whole structure. All right. But then that's what they said. They said the women are supposed to be there and men are supposed to be there. But then what happened when elections came? A group of people in this village and in this village said, we gave all our votes to a woman. And for all the villages over here, the gray is saying that people voted for both men and women. So you are saying that women are supposed to be there. So what you are saying is contrary to your actions over here. All right. So what is the social? There could be another social structure that is informing and influencing people's behaviors. So over here, you have the grandfathers and the mothers and the aunties and the sisters up there. And then you have the middle group there, and then the other group over here. But when election time comes, then this social group here, this social structure then becomes important, because in this type of social structure, power is fluid. Power is moving between male and female, elderly grandmothers and elderly grandfathers, and so forth and so on. So what title you hold in the relationship now begins to become the thing that determines whether you have power or you do not have power. All right, so what are the rules that are upholding that structure? One man told me that you women are very powerful. How do we know that? Because there are more widows in the village than widowers. Many men die and leaving their wives behind. Women, you are also important. You're very powerful because you menstruate. And menstruation is a weapon that we against anything and everything that is men. The woman makes the fire and takes care of the fire. So in making the fire and taking care of the fire in the house, this man got up and he said, one participant got up and said, that makes you powerful because you are every day hitting your hand on the fire. And so your hands become very powerful. One male participant said, she becomes a man when she runs. If she is a man who is not like a man, then what is her reason for not wanting to be like a man? So when a woman stands up and says she's running, she suddenly becomes a man. We see some women doing work that is thought to be men's job only, but in parliament, can they go and hit the tabletop? So here, hitting the tabletop would be like throwing a spear or a club or throwing a punch. Fathers taught in Rigo, fathers taught their daughters the art of magic. So if they saw that if they see that the son is weaker than the daughter is more assertive, then the father chooses to teach the daughter. And the daughter's responsibility is later on, when another more better man appears, then she gets to return the art back to the family by teaching that stronger male member of the family. And barren women went to tribal wars with their husbands. Okay, so you see, that's how we vote here. That's what people said. That's how we vote here. We give our votes to our village men. If there is no connection, then why should we vote for other people? All right. So how can we vote for someone you do not know? When we passed one house, the village magistrate said, that house there belongs to the woman who is contesting. And when I looked at the house, the man said, when I looked at the house was a small matchbox house. So these are nuanced messages. They are saying that these women are not visible. You've got to be visible in order for people to want to vote for you. All right. Key findings in this: dichotomies in voter behaviors and attitudes towards women candidates. 53% of my participants cast ballots for both women and men candidates. Rigo open electorate is egalitarian. There is a feminist element in the electorate. Power is fluid, and strength and visibility are important values. And these are the values that get a woman elected in Rigo. So what am I saying? What's my conclusion? In 11 parliaments, voters have made only 10 women legislators at the national level, giving women access to the domain where decisions concerning the common good of the people is not a foreign concept, as we have seen. There are more barriers, however, there are more barriers than enablers preventing women being elected. And so what I'm saying is this: what Papua New Guinea needs to do is revisit the merit-based argument, because I think in 2019 or 2021, the Prime Minister said, oh, the women will have to get into parliament through this way, the ballot. If there are more barriers than enablers, then when are the women going to be able to get in, when money plays a very, very big role in ensuring that they stay out? And at the bottom of that, okay, if you want hardship. We also should revisit the notion of temporary special measures and look at Samoa and the autonomous region of Bougainville, because in Papua New Guinea, because the autonomous region of Bougainville has temporary special measures, and the current North Bougainville MP, open MP, Francesca Semoso, is not a first timer to politics. She's a seasoned politician, and she was one of the beneficiaries of the temporary special measures. And of course, probably revisit the organic law on provincial and national elections, and that I will have to talk to Ramitesh about, because there's something interesting that he said. And that is the end. Thank you, Tomas, Soketa, for your support.